Welcome to another episode of Total Football Talk. We're wrapping up the season here pretty rapidly. We have Week 16 games. We're going to do our predictions today, and the games are pretty cut and dry. New York at Indy is not today. Sorry. The games today are Washington at Tennessee. We'll cover the two games today, and then we'll jump into our two teams, so there'll be a little bit of a difference this go-around. But I just want to touch on Washington and Tennessee. I know both teams need to win. It's in Tennessee. I don't trust the Redskins situation at all. I think Tennessee's going to roll today. They may win this game 27-7, 27-3, if not even shut them out. I don't see the Redskins doing much on offense. And I think Henry's going to run over a very exhausted defense because they're going to be on the field for most of that game. So not a lot to say here. It's going to be a Tennessee whitewash.
Oh, by the way, hi, I'm Eric. I'm here too.
Well, you should have said something.
I do agree with that sentiment. I think you're going to see a lot of running with Derrick Henry, but also I think you're going to see Mariota get open in space and also hit some of his receivers, Tajay Sharp, Corey Davis especially. They need to revert to creating plays because they got a lot of their offensive line is hurt. Some of their other pass catchers are hurt. I know Mariota misses Jonnu Smith. He's out for the rest of the season. But Tennessee is also playing for their playoff lives. They need this game right here to put pressure not only on Indy but on Baltimore, even Houston for that matter. So Tennessee right here this week is sitting in the driver's seat with this game being first because if they win, then everybody else is like, crap, we got to win too. If they lose, then the other teams are going to be like, okay, we don't have to worry about Tennessee. They're basically out.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I do like your scores. I see more of like a 27-10 game.
Okay. Fair enough.
Tennessee, by the way. I'm thinking the Titans.
Yeah, I figured as much. Also, we've got the Baltimore.
Oh, by the way, really quick. Underrated release by the Washington Redskins. They released Capri Bibbs, who is a pass-catching running back who actually had a couple of decent games earlier this season filling in for Adrian Peterson. He was scooped up and cleaned out waivers by Green Bay. He was a huge Green Bay fan growing up, and now he gets to play for his favorite team when he was a kid. So I thought that Washington was like, I was kind of head-scratching me why Washington did that, but I don't know if they needed like offensive help or...
Well, they probably had to go get an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
That's my thinking. San Diego is home against Baltimore.
Whatever. At the Q.
At the Q. Actually, fun fact, the Raiders may be playing at the Q or Glendale's, whatever the hell the stadium's called now here in Arizona. Did you hear about that? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about that. I also heard they could be playing in Reno. I heard they could be playing at AT&T Park in San Francisco. I've heard they could be playing in Santa Clara. I've heard a bunch of places.
Interesting. Very interesting. That'd be weird. Oakland Raiders playing in San Francisco.
Well, they did. If you remember a time, back in the 60s, they actually did play in San Francisco for a few games.
Mm-mm. I did not know that.
Yeah, back in the early 60s.
Look, the bottom line for me is with this one, the Ravens. We're about to see why Jackson shouldn't have been a first-round pick. Why he needs more time to grow than I'm afraid that the Ravens are going to ruin this kid because you're throwing him into the fire now. And I know they're like, what do they got to lose? Everything, because the kid's not ready to play. And I don't want to hear about the win streak because Baltimore's played next to nobody in that stretch. He played, and he didn't even play well in the one big game against Kansas City that they nearly won. That was the defense carrying the offense for most of the game. I think the Chargers are going to absolutely open up a can of absolute whoop-you-know-what on them. They may open up a whole dumpster truck worth of it. I think Baltimore is going to be in this game early, but I think that the Chargers are going to pull away in the second half. They know how important this game is. They don't have a home field. Crowd noise isn't going to be a problem. I don't see this game being close. I think the Chargers win this one 31-17, 31-20, something like that.
So this just in, breaking news out of Baltimore. Anthony is not a fan of Lamar Jackson or the Ravens for that matter because for some reason he's a Cleveland Browns fan. let me get to the real breaking news out of Baltimore. They're working on a contract extension
for Harbaugh.
Announced last night for John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Kind of head scratching, if you ask me, when they announce it right now. But it is what it is when it comes to that. So, the only thing I can say about Baltimore is at least there's going to be stability. That's really what I have to say about that, especially as far as, at least they know who their head coach is going to be moving forward. With that being said, I do not see the Chargers whooping up on the Ravens, especially with the Ravens defense playing as well as it is. This game is going to be close. This game is going to be a lot like the Chiefs-Ravens game in Kansas City. You're going to see like a 27-24, which is exactly what Baltimore lost by to Kansas City. But I'm thinking more. It's going to be a 3-point game. I'm thinking more like 30-27. I think you're going to see a lot of runs by Lamar Jackson. They're going to be able to get out in the open space. They're not going to be able to pass their way to a victory. I just think they fall another field goal short. But the Chargers get the win here.
Okay. Well,
Keenan Allen, by the way, is a game-time decision. If he's out there, it really helps the Chargers offense. Melvin Gordon is back. Let's not forget that. I want to touch on that really quick. He's going to have a hard time running in this game, but it's going to be good to see him back out there because, he's going to see this type of defense in the playoffs. I'm not saying Baltimore's defense exactly, but he's going to see a tougher run defense in the playoffs. So this is what he needs to get used to, and I think it's a really good indicator of how the Chargers might even perform in the playoffs because this is more like a playoff game for both teams. Chargers want the division, and the Ravens want that 6 seed. Or heck, if the Ravens even win, they're eyeing the division.
At this point, yeah. All right, Rams at Cardinals. I'm going to start with this one. So I'm listening to something on the app, the NFL app, and of course, I always love it when the Rams are demoted to the podcast coverage and not the Bucky and the Bucky Brooks and the other guy that usually do the games because the Rams are, a pretty good football team, and they usually do the podcast games for the garbage games or the games they think no one cares about because those guys are awful. And of course, they're saying, oh, the Rams, I don't know if they can blow out the Cardinals. I mean, this is a bad football team right now. Offensively, they're struggling, and teams are figuring them out. And the Cardinals are different at home, and this and that. And I'm sitting there going, as usual. As usual. Anytime the Rams struggle, they're back in with the riff-raff, and they're nothing to worry about, and don't even worry. Guys, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I am not budging off of my pick of the Rams going to the Super Bowl. I'm not budging off of the fact that I think the Rams can go into New Orleans and beat the Saints. And what I find very ironic is you don't see New Orleans on the podcast being talked about with the riff-raff and the garbage. Now, maybe it's because of their opponent. They're playing Pittsburgh this week. I can concede that. But the fact of the matter is you've got an 11-3 football team who's dominated this division. The Rams' practice squad is better than the Cardinals' starting roster, and you're going to sit there and talk to me about this being not a close game. Let me tell you how this game's going to break down. You're going to see two things different in this game. You're going to see I formation. That's one thing you're going to see that's going to be really different. You're going to see the Rams come out and run the ball a little more concerted, a little more consistently than they've done in the past, okay? Past 3 games. Not saying it's going to be Gurley running the rock necessarily, and I don't think it's going to be C.J. Anderson either. But I think there's going to be an effort to mix in the running game more frequently because I don't even know if Gurley's going to play. You're also going to see Jared Goff take a completely different approach than he's taken in the past. You're going to see the Rams flood the intermediate routes and keep Cooks going vertical so that umbrella defense stays an umbrella defense. You're going to see Goff picking them apart, going underneath. I think Goff could have 45 passes. I think the Rams can have 20 rushing attempts. And I think Goff is going to throw over 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. He might throw a pick because he is in a little bit of a slump, and that pick could come early. But the bottom line is the Rams defense is absolutely going to abuse the Arizona Cardinals offensive line. I think Marcus Peters is going to get a pick. I think Akeem Talib is going to get a pick. I think LaMarcus Joyner is going to get a pick, and I think Johnny Johnson's going to get a pick. I think all 4 guys in the secondary are going to be, if they don't get a pick, it's going to be in their hands and they're going to drop it. But if they catch it, they've got it because he's going to throw to them or they're going to be in position to make a play 4 times. Each guy in the secondary. I don't see this game being close. I think the Rams are going to come in and try to blow the doors off of this thing and really focus on the running game in the second half. I think the Rams are going to win this thing 38-0, 38-10. I'm giving the Cardinals 0 to 10 points in this game. I don't see them getting much more than that. I think the Rams are going to score in every single quarter, and I think they're going to go, okay, this is a game that we should handle, and it's a game we are going to handle. Now, it may be ugly in the first quarter, but I think you're going to see it pick up from there. Your take.
The Rams just need to watch the Falcons-Cardinal game and just run the ball, whether that's C.J. Anderson, whether that's John Kelly, whether that's Todd Gurley. Run the ball, control the clock, bully Arizona on the football field. Just be like, you know what, this is not going to be close. We're going to make sure it's not close. I don't care if it's in L.A. I don't care if it's in Glendale. We're going to beat you. You're not that good. The Rams have an eye on a first-round bye, and they're not going to let an Arizona Cardinal team beat them to where their season is semi in jeopardy with losing a first-round bye. The Rams need to get healthy, and that means getting Gurley healthy and getting him right. Goff needs to have a really good game. I think it doesn't matter who you're playing. I think especially knowing what the playoffs are on the horizon, he needs to be able to get his receivers involved, hit Cooks on a couple of deep passes. I don't care if, Patrick Peterson is on Cooks or Woods, because you want to get them the ball. They need the ball in their hands, and because they're your best playmakers.
Yeah.
Goff just needs a really good game. I can see this being another 34-0 game, but I'm going to be nice, 34-7.
Okay. Works. Chicago at San Francisco. Eric, this worries me. The 49ers beat Seattle at home last week. Rivalry game, throw records out the window, and that was proven. But if there's ever been a team in the NFL that's owned the Chicago Bears better than the 49ers, I need to know who it is.
Well, it ain't the 49ers, I'll tell you that much.
What's the overall the Houston record. Texans. They've been around since 2002. Don't even give me that.
The overall record is San Francisco leads the series 34-31-1.
Wow, it's closer than I thought.
Yes, the last 3 games have been in Chicago. The Bears are 1-2. The 3 games before that were in San Francisco. The Bears are 1-2.
Wow.
Yeah. Listen, San Francisco is actually coming off 2 high weeks in a row. I see a letdown by the 49ers. And I see a better defense going against the 49ers. Because remember, the 49ers beat the Broncos, and then they turn around and they beat the Seahawks in the rain.
Yeah.
This week, they get a better defense combined between the other 2 teams. And if you combine the other 2 teams' defenses, you might actually get close to the Bears' defense.
I agree with that.
The Bears know how to cover a tight end. The Bears are going to stop Breida. They're going to stop Alfred Morris if he plays. They're going to stop Jeff Wilson Jr. if he plays. Nick Mullins is finally going to see a defense this season that he wishes he didn't.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Nick Mullins is going to look this whole game like he did in the fourth quarter against Green Bay on Monday Night Football. Because Green Bay finally decided to pressure him, and he was off his throws. Actually, that wasn't Mullins, that was Beathard.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, San Francisco's offense is going to look like that game from the fourth quarter of the Green Bay game. But I do like the Bears. I do like the Bears in this game. I think they come out, they prove that, we might have had 2 huge games, but we're not looking ahead. We're taking 1 week at a time. And I think you see a 21-17 Bears win, 24-17 Bears win. I think a lot very close to what you saw last week with the Bears. And I think you're going to see Mullins with a couple of turnovers. Kittle's going to be lucky to get 75 yards receiving because the Bears have the speed on that defense, whether it's Roquan Smith or Trevathan, to be able to slow down Mullins and slow down the passing attack of San Francisco, if you can really call it a passing attack. Um, I see Trubisky having a good game. I see the ground game getting great combination between Cohen and Howard. I think this is a great game for the Bears to get Miller, Burton, and Gabriel well involved. While you have Allen Robinson on the outside making his crazy catches that he seems to make at least once or twice a game. I am worried, though, that if there is a letdown, I've heard Matt Nagy on the radio this week. He had his press conference, and it doesn't sound like Eddie Jackson is going to be playing because he has a sprained ankle. So this would be a great game to hold him out, I believe. I think the Bears can get by without him. But they asked if he was asked on a radio show if he was already starting to look ahead to rest players. And he said the right thing, but I also thought, why would you tell the radio station guys and not say this in your press conference? So I know that they're fishing for something, they just didn't get it. But this is the wrong week to be looking at resting guys. Your defense is going to be your defense. Maybe some offensive players if they get a nick or two here and there, but you have the potential to knock out two of your division foes in 3 weeks. And what better way to go out and go into Minnesota next week, not having to worry about, after beating San Francisco, knocking them out, and then getting ready at home, because that home cooking is going to taste a lot better that week leading up to the playoffs. So there's still a slim shot at getting the
2 seed.
Getting the 2 seed for the Bears, but a lot of things need to fall for them. So I don't see a letdown here. This would be a game that they could let down, but I also don't see it because Dallas is right on their tails for the 3 spot. I know the Bears want that 3 seed.
Well, see, that's my concern. Is this is a perfect spot for the Bears, I think, to have a letdown. You just beat Green Bay. You won the division. You're in the playoffs. The Rams have 2 easy opponents. You're probably not going to catch them. You got Minnesota next week, which really could come down to that 3 versus 4 seed. I worry that this is going to be a game where they kind of ease up a little bit. I'm picking the Bears to win, but I'm really not confident in this pick because I've grown up with the 49ers dominating the Bears. Now, they must have had a huge lead on San Francisco before the 1980s because since the 1980s, the Niners have owned Chicago in every major matchup that I've seen, with the exception of a Monday night game in Chicago in '88. So I worry. I worry greatly. So for me, I look at this game and I go, okay, Chicago's in San Fran. I'd feel better if they were at home, but I don't like the 49ers. So I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to say that this is going to be a 27-21 football game. I think the 49ers are going to get a little bit more through the air than you're comfortable with. I think Kittle is going to have more yards than you're comfortable with. And I think that the Bears are going to need to figure it out by halftime, and I think they will. Because I think they're going to realize, okay, we can't take these guys too lightly. And I think it's going to be a moral victory for San Francisco, but moral victories get you high first round picks. So I'm going Chicago in this one, but I worry about this game, Eric, a lot.
Well, the Bears are going to make San Francisco one-dimensional, something that the Broncos and Seahawks couldn't do the last 2 weeks. And we've seen Nick Mullins have a bad game. It was his second or third career start, second or third start this season. And I think you're going to see a lot more. The opportunistic Bears defense is going to get a turnover or 2 at just the right time. And as long as the Bears play error-free football and don't turn the ball over in their half or their side of the field, they're going to be fine. They're going to run the ball down San Francisco's throat. Now, the big talk leading up to this week is, hey, let's revisit that Trubisky Bears 49ers trade, and let's take a look at how Solomon Thomas is doing. You can't compare a quarterback to a defensive player when you move up one spot in the draft. I don't think there's any other teams on Trubisky. I think the 49ers fleeced the Bears, but the Bears are reaping the benefits right now. 10-4, 49ers are 4-10. They traded for Garoppolo. He tore his ACL. It's still maybe a little too early to determine if that was a good or bad trade by the Bears. But I'm telling you, if the Bears continue on this path, get to the playoffs, win a Super Bowl, that trade was great then in hindsight. But, we'll see where San Francisco is when, Garoppolo is fully healthy. So, maybe it's close at the beginning, in the first quarter and a half, halftime maybe. I think the Bears pull away in the second half.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Start from the top. Giants at Colts. Not a lot to say here. I think Indy's going to win this game. The Colts handled a much better offense than the Dallas Cowboys, a much better balanced offense in the Dallas Cowboys. There's no chance for a letdown. There's no chance for an overlook here. The Colts are in a position where every game is essentially a playoff game. And after they realize that Tennessee opened up a can of you-know-what on Washington, they're going to need to show up and play against the Giants. I think the Colts are going to win this game 28-7, 31-10, something like that. It's not going to be very close. I think Indy advances in this mini postseason picture, and they play the play-in game against Tennessee next week. That's the way I see this unfolding.
Well, Indy gets back-to-back home games against NFC East opponents, and they were able to hold Zeke down quite a bit. Saquon Barkley's a little different. Saquon Barkley's a little bit shiftier. He's not as big as Zeke. I think Barkley gets the Giants on the board, and that's it. I see another 24-7 game. There is no Odell Beckham Jr. for the third game in a row for New York. I would just hold him out for Week 17 and be like, hey, get your calf better.
Yep.
Because it seems like he was getting better, the second before he was out the second game of this injury, and he's still not practicing and getting in with the Giants. So I don't know if it's real or if they're just holding him out, saying this is a lost season. Colts, on the other hand, run the ball, get Eric Ebron involved early. T.Y. Hilton hit him on a couple of deep routes. And Indy's going to cruise to victory because they got the offensive line that can easily protect Andrew Luck. I don't actually expect Luck to be touched much in this game, but I see a 24-7, 27-7 victory for the Colts.
Yeah, I agree. Jacksonville at Miami. I think the Dolphins handle business here in the Battle of Florida. I don't see them losing to Jacksonville. I think Tannehill will have a decent enough game. I'm not going to talk a lot about this game because the quarterback for the Jaguars is Hogan? Is that right?
Cody Kessler.
Who?
Cody Kessler.
Oh, that's right, Cody Kessler. So, for me, it's really, is anybody going to pick Jacksonville here? I would be shocked. I think the Dolphins handle business. I think they roll it, as a matter of fact. I think they win this thing. I don't know. If you want me to give you a score, I'll give you a score. I think there's going to be 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. Kenyon Drake goes over 100 all-purpose yards, and I think the Dolphins win this thing 24-3.
Well, you got the running back stats right, but it's not going to be Kenyon Drake. It's going to be Kalen Ballage. I like the 28-3 score. Pick up Miami's defense if you still can, if you're in the fantasy championship, because Jacksonville is not going to put up a ton of points on you. Fournette's going to get some yardage, but I see between 60 and 70 yards all game. He's just not the same running back as he was last year to this year. I don't know if it's injuries taking a toll, but Jacksonville really needs to revert back and say, hey, what's going on here with our running game? And this ain't the week to do that. But I see Miami with a big win against the Jaguars, and how the mighty have fallen from one year to the next.
Well, Jacksonville wasn't mighty; they were more like Minnie Mouse that somehow showed up.
Well, that defense took them a long way. Just you could say they got screwed in the championship game, but
yeah. Well, the team they would have played in the Super Bowl is about to be eliminated from the postseason this year. Today or tomorrow. Houston goes into Philly, and I think Houston wins. I think they have a couple problems to do the Eagles. They're not going up against a statue like they did last week in Jared Goff. They're not going up against a team that won't run the ball no matter the circumstance, no matter the situation, for whatever reason is unbeknownst to me, and they don't even have a running back the same caliber as Todd Gurley. And they're going up against a defense that actually knows how to cover people in the deep zone and in one-on-one. I think Clowney gets 3 sacks. I think J.J. Watt gets a sack fumble. I think that there's a pick 6 in this game, and I think that the Houston Texans go into Philly and they beat them. And I'm not kidding when I say this score: 30-16.
Jeez. Wow. So I have a hypothetical question for you. let's say the Eagles win and they get in the playoffs. Is Foles your quarterback of the future?
What if Vince Ferragamo found Billy Waddy on the post route in Super Bowl 14 and the Rams win?
Would you?
What if frogs had wings? They wouldn't bump their ass when they hop. I'm not going to answer the hypothetical because they're not going to win.
Hey, listen. If somebody came to me offering a trade offer for Carson Wentz, I would be dumb not to listen. If Foles leads them into the playoffs, and if Foles can take them far into the playoffs, you have to think about it.
I think you have to be concerned about Carson Wentz's injury problems. At this point, he's got them.
How can he not?
Right.
How can he not?
Right. If I would argue this, okay. Forget if they make the playoffs. If they win next week after losing this week, and he has a bounce back game, I think you have a dilemma. Because this year, with him in the lineup, you would be 3-2 and have a winning record, coupled with the postseason run a year ago. With Carson Wentz this year, you have a losing record. Now, I think you got to give it another year and see how, because that knee is still bugging him. And I guarantee you the reason he has the back problems is because of the way he was stepping and turning his body, so he didn't have to put pressure on that knee. So let's see how he looks next year. I would not be against trading Foles if I could get a first-round pick. And I think you could put a lot of pressure on teams and be like, you want Foles, it's going to cost you a 1 and 2 twos. Because you don't really want to get rid of him, right? Because you want to see what's going to happen with Wentz next year. Now, if Wentz comes out like a barn burner and dominates, has an MVP caliber season again, sure. You put Foles back on the chopping block for less than what you were asking for the year before. But if Wentz goes down again and he has another winning record as a starter with your team, at that point, I think you have to consider letting go of Wentz. But these variables aren't going to be determined until next year.
Well, Nick Foles is a free agent after the season. I mean, could you think about the franchise tag?
For 1 year, yeah.
It's not out of the question.
It isn't.
Okay. Back to this game. It's going to be high 40s, sunny, no rain in the forecast in Philadelphia at the Link. Philly's been playing good of late, and Houston's traveling east. I don't think that it really has any bearing on it because they went to the Jets last week. And if I were Houston, I might have even thought about staying on the East Coast, but you had an extra day because they play on Saturday. But they're playing a different team this week in Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia has a good passing attack with Foles. He finds Alshon Jeffrey, and the guy who actually doesn't get pass catches is Zach Ertz. Now, I feel that the Eagles are going to try to get Ertz that tight end reception record or get him close to it. So in Week 17, all he needs is 1 or 2 catches, and they might take him out, depending on where they are, playoffs. And I say that because if they beat the Texans, that puts pressure on Minnesota to not only beat Detroit, but also put pressure on Minnesota to beat Chicago next week. Now, the only thing that Minnesota has, the two things that Minnesota has in their favor when it comes to Philadelphia is they have a head-to-head matchup and they have the better win percentage if they end with the same amount of wins because they tied Green Bay earlier in the year.
Right.
So that is the and that's what's going to be hard for Philly to overcome. Philly needs to win this game, and Minnesota needs to lose Detroit for Philadelphia to jump over them, or they both win this week and Minnesota loses next week and Philly wins next week. So they're not out of it, but I think they take a step towards it this week. And I think that they shut down the Texans, and not their passing attack, but their running game. Whether or not Lamar Miller plays and if it's Alfred Blue, you're going to see a lot of Deshaun Watson, Demaryius Thomas, and DeAndre Hopkins, and rightfully so because Philadelphia's secondary is absolute garbage. So they're going to get their passing in But I think Philly does a lot of ground control and also passing to Jeffrey and Golden Tate, all while getting Ertz involved too. I see this a very close game. I see that Philadelphia, actually, I'm calling the upset here. I'm taking the Eagles in this game as much as I like the Houston Texans. Taking the Eagles at home. I'm liking this game for the Eagles 30-24, 30-27.
Not going to happen, but okay. All right. That's your call, man. I disagree. Green Bay at the Jets. I'm not going to take a lot of time to talk about this. The Packers haven't won on the road yet this year, and that trend continues. Jets win 21-17. It's not going to be much of a game. I think Aaron Rodgers will have some success through the air, as he always does, but I think the Jets are going to control the clock on the ground because Green Bay can't stop anybody running the ball. I mean, the Cardinals had 181 yards rushing. Do I need to say more? Jets win. Joe Philbin's record against the Jets anyway as a head coach isn't that impressive, so Jets win.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be very – I'm going to have a smile on my face after this game when Green Bay goes 0-8 on the road this year. I like your score. I could even be 21-20 Jets. Look for a big game out of Robbie Anderson, especially because Green Bay's secondary isn't the greatest. I mean, they'll have Jair Alexander on Robbie Anderson, but I could see him getting a long score, like a 60-75-yard score somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. And I think Darnold plays turnover-free football, and the Jets put a lot of pressure on Green Bay. But I do like the Jets in this game, and I like it by less than a field goal or less.
I'm going to talk more about this team next week. So this week, I'm going to be brief. Cleveland. They're home against Cincinnati. I don't think this is going to be a problem. I think Cleveland's going to win this thing 42-0.
Wow.
You heard the score right. 42 to goose egg. I think Chubb's going to have over 150, maybe 225 yards rushing. I think that Baker Mayfield's going to throw for over 300 yards or approach 300 yards. I think the Browns defense is going to get 4 or 5 turnovers. If you're in the championship game and you have a defense that you're suspect about and you have money and the Browns defense is available, this is the week to get your defense. Because I think they'll pull a Detroit Lions on you and they'll end up putting, 48 on your opponent or 52 or whatever the frig they did. The Browns are going to dominate this game, and it's not even going to be close. They may put 21 up in the first quarter, 21 up in the second quarter, and then cruise the rest of the way. I'm going to be generous, though, and say it's 14-14, 14-0 is going to be the score by period for the Browns. I just don't see Driscoll being able to do to that defense what better quarterbacks have struggled to do against that defense. So, yeah, there's my prediction. Chubb's going to go off today.
God, I hope not. I'm going against
tomorrow.
In the championship game.
I meant tomorrow. Yeah, I'm sorry, E.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, you mentioned Mayfield. You mentioned a little bit of fantasy. And in one championship league that I'm in, I actually been riding Phillip Rivers. Actually, basically through the playoffs. I think I started Winston once when he was actually having a good game, and it paid off. But it's championship week, and I see that the Chargers are facing the Ravens. So what do? I picked up Baker Mayfield. I'm starting Baker Mayfield, the rookie quarterback, for my championship game.
Nice.
Yes, I am. And I see Cleveland on a mission. Listen, Cleveland's going to try to make it hard for anybody for this past week to eliminate them. And with Baltimore possibly losing Saturday night, Cleveland wins, man. They're one game back, and they need a lot of help. They need Indy to lose. They need Tennessee to lose. Then they need Indy and Tennessee to tie for even Cleveland to get into the playoffs and win their last 2 games. Is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. Is it probable? Yeah, not really. I don't see Tennessee and Indy tying. Watch it happen now. But yeah, Cleveland looks at this game and they're like, oh, we're playing the Cincinnati Texans again, huh? Okay, well, it's not going to be pretty this time in Cleveland. And
the
Browns fans are
yeah.
going to come out for this game and be loud.
Oh, yeah.
The fans that didn't jump ship to other teams in the last 10 years, they're going to be out and they're going to be loud. Okay, Cleveland wins this game 38-13.
Wow. Yeah, it's going to be a whitewash any way you look at it. Tampa Bay at Dallas. Look, Dallas gets right. They're at home. They play a weak opponent. Tampa Bay and Dirk Carter. It amazes me how these guys get NFL head coaching jobs. I just don't see the Buccaneers doing. Well, I see the Buccaneers doing exactly what me and Eric are used to seeing from a Dirk Carter coach football team: undisciplined, mistake-prone, dumb coaching decisions at inopportune times, and it's all going to benefit the Dallas Cowboys. I think Dallas wins this game 24-0.
Wow. Yeah, I see Dallas getting right in this game too. Couldn't agree with you more there. I think you're going to see a lot more Amari Cooper in this game because the Bucs secondary is not good, and I'm being generous, but I think you're going to see a lot of Ezekiel Elliott in this game as Dallas gears up for the playoffs because they do have a division opponent week 17, and you know they're going to want to wrap up the division because they need to, and they don't want to let any other teams get closer or have that opportunity to knock them off. But Dallas does beat Tampa. I think you're going to see some Tampa fireworks in this game, and I think it's going to mainly come from Brate and Peyton Barber because I think Dallas can shut down Mike Evans. But you're also going to get your secondary guys in Godwin and Humphreys quite a bit involved or as well, I should say. But Dallas wins this game 27-13.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be close. It'll be close. It'll be a close score at halftime, and then Dallas just opens it up as they get the ball to start the third quarter, and they go down for a score.
Minnesota at Detroit. Let me go ahead and eliminate any of the possibilities we talked about for Philadelphia here. Because not only does Philly lose to Houston, but even if they win, it's not going to matter because Minnesota is going to go into Detroit and they're going to beat an anemic, pathetic Lions football team. I think the only touchdown for the Lions in this game is going to be a Slay pick six. I think he's going to have 2 in a row. He had one last week against Arizona. I think he'll have another one this week. I love this kid. He just made the Pro Bowl. He is by far one of my favorite corners to watch in the NFL. But I think it's going to be too much Minnesota offense, too much Minnesota defense. I think they're still sacking Stafford right now from their last game. I think they racked in like 22 sacks in one quarter or something ridiculous. I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. Stafford may retire after this game. He's going to be hit so many times. I think the Vikings are going to handle business here, and I think they're going to win this one 27-7. Actually, I'm feeling more of a 34-7 game, but I'm going to be nice and say 27-7 Vikings.
Yeah, the last time these two teams met, Stafford got sacked 10 times in a game. I'm looking for more of that. No matter where it's at, they could be playing outside, they could be playing on a neutral field, they could be playing back in Minnesota. Don't matter.
And it's not like the Lion fans are going to be loud. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, they're not going to be, and I will tell you why. Is because this is Detroit's last home game, and they already know that they're out of the playoffs. Their record is 5-9. They're not playing for anything except for a better draft pick, and it's better for them to lose than for them to win. As far as this game goes, look for Cousins to get right, and whoever Darius Slay is covering, look for the other wide receiver to have a big game, whether that's Thielen or Diggs. Dalvin Cook's going to get involved. I think that defense in Minnesota rears its ugly head and says, Stafford, you're not doing anything today. And just like you did nothing the last time, you're not doing anything this time. Don't matter if it's at our place or at your place. Philadelphia is going to actually win against Houston because I picked them. And it's all going to come down to week 17. Philadelphia goes to Washington. They need to win that game. Minnesota hosts the Bears. And if the Bears play their game and beat Minnesota, I buy Minnesota. They get the Eagles if the Eagles win. So, a lot of different scenarios the last couple of weeks here, but I like Minnesota big in this game. Give you a 34-7 game.
Ooh, we have the same score almost. All right, that's the one I want to go with. Buffalo at New England, guys. Miami's still in the playoff picture, and if New England loses this week, Miami has a chance if they win the final week of the season and the Patriots lose against the Jets to win the division. Now, you also have a chance to win the lottery today, so go buy your ticket Because your chances of winning the lottery are the same as the Bills beating the Patriots in New England. Now, I think the Bills have a better chance than the Jets. I think the Bills have a 0.0000001% chance of winning, while I think the Jets have no chance of winning. Gotta love the fact that you play in the AFC East, New England. If you're a Patriot fan, you have no right to be arrogant. You have benefited from what is, I consider, malpractice. NFL malpractice. And the AFC East should be ashamed of itself because not once have they tried to put a product on the field that could compete with the best in their division. And it's the only division in NFL history, in sports history, that sat there and let a team dominate like that year in and year out and not even try to give them a run. It's pathetic. There's no way Josh Allen's going to go into Foxborough and beat the Patriots. There just isn't. So I see the Patriots winning this game, probably 27-13, but it'll be like 27-6 for most of the game, and then Buffalo will get a quick touchdown at the end of the game to make it look interesting, maybe a Josh Allen rushing touchdown. But the Bills are going to lose Josh Allen in this game because Belichick's going to take him away. Now at that, and rookie quarterbacks don't do well against Bill Belichick. So take your pick here. It's a Patriot victory.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't touch on the elephant in the room, but in case you've been in a cave the last couple of days.
Hold on. Let me tell you. I'll let you say it, Eric, but the reason I'm not touching that elephant in the room is because that elephant wasn't even present on the football field when he was there.
Well, dude, he led the, from the time he got there, he led the Patriots in receiving yards.
And that's saying a lot?
Well, a little bit. I'll give him 50-50, so yes and no. The Patriots are more of a ground team this season by having Sony Michel do so well. Even though when he was out, that's when Brady took over and threw the ball. But the loss of Josh Gordon, I think, is going to not hurt them as much as you think.
No, it doesn't hurt them at all.
Because they're just going to go to those 5 to 7 yard outs with Edelman, Hogan, and Gronkowski. Mm-hmm. But I think this benefits James White. He gets back on the playing field. He gets a lot more reps now.
Look, I'm a Browns fan, Eric. So hearing this about Josh Gordon, I'm like, okay, it's Saturday. Like it's as surprising as me finding out what day of the week it is in the morning when I wake up. To me, it's not a big deal. He's claiming mental health. I'll tell you why he's claiming mental health. He has an addiction problem. And let this be a lesson to all you pot smokers out there that seem to think that marijuana isn't a damaging drug. It's ruined this man's life. You don't think it's addictive? The man can't put a joint down for the sake of millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And you're going to tell me that marijuana is not a problem. He has an addiction. It is as bad as alcohol. So for you to turn around and say marijuana and alcohol aren't the same, they are the same. They're addicting and they destroy lives. The difference is when you drink, it affects your life unless you get behind the wheel. When you puff on a marijuana cigarette, that smoke affects everyone around you. Not to mention it destroys brain cells. So as far as I'm concerned, they're both bad, so you can't claim one's better than the other and try to legalize one at the expense of the other. This is a great lesson to be learned for young people out there, okay? Marijuana is not the drug that cures every disease and has zero side effects. It destroys lives, and I speak from personal experience because of what it did to my own family. So don't talk to me or come at me about pot use being the best thing ever and we should legalize it in every state for recreational purposes. Because what these scumbags do is they first, and I'm not even talking about the pot smokers, I'm talking about those that want to legalize it. First they turn around and say, oh, it's for medical purposes only. Then the very next election, medicinal purposes, personal and recreational use. It always goes on the docket next. You're not even honest in the argument. Marijuana affects people negatively, and Josh Gordon is Exhibit A. I'm done. I'm not going to talk about Josh Gordon because he's a druggie. Because he can't put a joint down and make millions of dollars and be an effective player. How good could Gordon have been if he never touched marijuana? And that's a common theme I hear. But what?
I said he could have been great.
Right.
Browns if that was the case.
Dude, I'm a teacher. Do you know how many times I've said to myself over the years, man, that kid could have been special if he just laid off the pot. But he ruined his life. You can't reach him. So we do it with youth. We do it with the adults, but we still think it's a perfectly good drug to use. I'm so irritated. I didn't mean this to get political, but this is a real problem that I want young people to understand. Eric, you say your piece on this and we'll go to the next game.
Well, I mean, I got really no more to say about Gordon either. I just want to touch on it. But I think you're going to see a close game for a while in this game with the Patriots and Bills. Josh Allen, you can run on the Patriots, but the Patriots obviously are better at home than they are on the road. Obviously, they went 3-5 on the road this year. So I think you see a Patriot victory over Buffalo, but I think it's close. 27-21 Patriots, and they get to their 10th victory of the season for like the 12th year in a row.
Yeah, and they wrap up the division. Atlanta at Carolina. I want to touch on this one.
Hold on. Speaking of, sorry to mention that, but the Dolphins are 2 games back, so unless the Patriots have a real big mess up the last 2 weeks, it's still possible for the Dolphins to win the division, but I don't see it happening after this week.
No. Even if they lose to Buffalo, you're going to tell me they're going to lose to the Jets at home, I believe? No way.
I mean, stranger things have happened, right?
Well, not in New England and not with the cheating that goes on in Patriot land. They will find a way to win that 10th game if they have to. And I'll leave it at that. Atlanta at Carolina. I think the Panthers finally get out of their tailspin here. I think Christian McCaffrey has a good game. Sorry, Eric. I know that's bad news for you. But I think Christian McCaffrey has a big game. I think that Cam Newton at home just plays a little bit better. I know he didn't against the Saints. Defensively, though, the Panthers showed that they have a very good defense. And I think that they want to put themselves in position where they can at least end the season at 8-8 next week in New Orleans and possibly ruin the Saints parade by, at least getting them to the same record as the Rams. Now, as we know, if the Saints lose to Pittsburgh, and we haven't even touched on that game yet, and then lose to Carolina, the Rams win out, they win the number 1 overall seed. So it really, to me, I'm not worried about this week against Pittsburgh. I'm pretty sure I know how this game is going to go. If I'm a Saint fan, I'm worried about next week at home against Carolina. You got to make sure that you take care of business. And of the 2 opponents, that's the easier one to beat because you've owned that series. But we'll get to that later because I don't know how that whole thing's going to unfold. I'm going to go bold here, though. If Carolina loses this game, I think they're disinterested. They check out and they end up going 6-10 for the season. And I don't think they play against New Orleans at all. But if they win this game, I think you're going to see a rejuvenated Carolina team next week. I think the Panthers are going to win this game. I think it's going to be 41-34, 41-30. It's going to be a back-and-forth game, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Carolina.
So I'm going to give you a chance to change your pick. Do you want to change your pick?
Well, is Christian McCaffrey out?
Cam Newton's not playing.
Ooh. Still?
Cam Newton is taking the next 2 weeks off.
Well,
shut him down.
It definitely changes my pick next week. From being a close game to being a blowout. No, I'll change my score. I think it'll be more like 27-24. But I still think that their defense and their running game is good enough to beat Atlanta, especially at home.
Well, I think Atlanta can pretty much put 11 in the box and make Taylor Heineke beat them. They've already lost to the Falcons once this year. That was in Week 2, 31-24. That was their first loss of the season. The Panthers have been in the tailspin ever since. There's a possibility they could lose 8 in a row to finish off the year, and that would not look good.
Has what is with the Panthers? Remember the year they won the first game of the season against Minnesota? then lost 15 in a
Yeah.
row.
Yeah, that was with Chris Wakey at quarterback. It changed their season because 9/11 hit.
Yeah.
And I think that changed. I thought that changed the projection for two teams because they were coming off hot, and then they got the extra week or 11 days off because of what was going on. And yeah, they ended up losing 15 straight.
That's crazy.
So yeah, it's obviously this isn't similar, but they're in a bad tailspin. I think Atlanta comes in here, and I like the Falcons in this game because they're more healthy on offense, and they're not playing a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
You can hand the ball off to McCaffrey so many times. You can throw so many screen passes so many times. But after the first quarter, I don't really see the Falcons letting McCaffrey get out much in the way of yards. And yeah, he's going to get his yards because he's one heck of a darn good running back. And 30 or 29 other teams would love, or 31 other teams would love to have him. And I mean, I would take him over Jordan Howard. I don't know if you take him over Todd Gurley, but he's one of those. He's one of those pass catching running backs that are very far and few between. There's only a handful of them in the NFL.
Yeah.
But this game is going to be close early, but I think the Falcons, make Taylor Heineke have happy feet, and you're going to see a few turnovers. Panthers need to see what life is like after Cam Newton. Boy, are they going to figure that out really quick. Atlanta wins this game. They're actually.
Eric, let me just say one thing, and I'm not trying to change your mind here, but I want you to think about this. I don't know what the overall record is, but I can tell you the overall performance is usually pretty good. When you have a quarterback coming in and playing somebody for the first time, especially a division opponent, it's sometimes, I don't know if the other team takes a step back, takes things a little bit lightly, but I don't know, man. I think with their offensive line and their running game, if they're able to stay in the game, and if he's able to be efficient on third down, the Falcons have a weakness in the secondary. They're still not healthy there. And that's been an Achilles heel for them all year long. And maybe this kid is actually going to throw to other receivers than one guy, and decide to hog the ball inside the 5-yard line. When you play Carolina, if you're covering anybody other than Cam Newton and Greg Olsen in the end zone, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot and you deserve to lose. Maybe this kid's actually going to spread the ball around. There's just so many unknown variables because you don't know what he's going to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
So, I don't know if it's going to be a blowout, but I'm curious what your score is.
30-17.
Ooh.
Falcons.
Okay. Look,
I know the Falcons have a good the Panthers have a good defense, but I mean, you're trying to beat an NFL quarterback that's been to the Super Bowl that has all-world wide receiver Julio Jones.
I know. And, but
the
Panthers' defense proved a lot last week against New Orleans.
Or was it New Orleans inept offense?
Well, that's another conversation that we need to have after this week. Can we go into that game? Can we go into Pittsburgh, New Orleans?
Please, let's do it.
I want to say thank you on behalf of the Ramily right now to the Pittsburgh Steelers on winning this game. Yeah, I said it. I think Pittsburgh goes into New Orleans. I think Antonio Brown gets open a lot. I think that Ben Roethlisberger hits him frequently. I think that, is Connor back for this game?
Connor is out for this game.
So, I think they're going to attack the running game in multiple ways. I expect there to be a lot of misdirection, counters, and traps on New Orleans. But I think ultimately it's going to be a big Ben Rapes-a-Burger kind of game. I think he's going to have close to 400. Actually, I'm going to say he's going to have 425 yards passing. I think he's going to have about 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think Antonio Brown goes off. And I think that New Orleans is going to be able to score on the Pittsburgh defense. But as much as those stats sound gaudy, The Saints defense is gritty. And when they get inside that red zone, they're going to make plays, which is why I have the final score to this game being 30-24 Pittsburgh. Because I think New Orleans will score. They'll hold Pittsburgh to a lot of field goals. But I think at the end of the day, that offense that's been struggling, and you're going to see, maybe it's 30-17 like the Ram game was 30-16 because of a really big pick six that's thrown by Drew Brees. Look, the Rams and Saints, they're mirror images of one another. They really are. And now here they are at home in a big moment against an opponent they should beat, but they're good. This is going to be an interesting matchup for me. And I said going down here that this 5-game stretch, this 4 out of 5 games, we were going to learn a lot about New Orleans. They didn't look good against Dallas. They didn't look good against Tampa Bay. And they certainly didn't look good against Carolina. And now they're at home against Pittsburgh, and I see them losing. That doesn't change things. I still think they end up with the 1 seed more than likely. But I got Pittsburgh winning this game 30-24.
Yeah, I think it's going to be high scoring. I was impressed with what Jalen Samuels did last week against the Patriots, running for as many yards as he did. I don't think he'll get that many yards this week on the ground for Pittsburgh because New Orleans is the number 1 ranked rushing defense as far as that goes. So yeah, they're not going to find much in the way of finding stuff on the ground. However, Ben Roethlisberger is going to have a field day throwing the ball because they are 5th worst at defending the pass. Now, they have Marshawn Lattimore and Eli Apple, but I'm sorry, Lattimore might be able to control Antonio Brown or Smith-Schuster for a half, but they're going to get theirs. Yeah. They're going to get theirs, and that's going to leave Vance McDonald or Jesse James wide open, and that's even going to leave Jalen Samuels open as a pass-catching running back option for Ben Roethlisberger. So I expect this to be high-scoring. Actually, I want it to be high-scoring for fantasy purposes. And I'll tell you why. I have Roethlisberger and Samuels. My opponent has the Pittsburgh defense. So please make this a 91-90 Pittsburgh win. Highest scoring game in NFL history. That would be wonderful. I appreciate that. Sorry to Eric. But I do see – I like Pittsburgh's offense, especially with their weapons, over New Orleans' offense. And I know you can run and pass on the Steelers, and I think you're going to see Breeze with a big game. But I think Pittsburgh goes into New Orleans, they quiet that crowd noise for a little bit, get out to a big lead. New Orleans comes back, 41-34 Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger with 5 touchdown passes.
Wow. So you're going higher than me, but you're picking Pittsburgh as well. All right.
I am, because the Saints are so beatable right now.
Yeah.
Like,
no, they are.
The Saints have faced 2 out of 3 good defenses in their last 3 games. And I'm not saying Pittsburgh is a great defense anymore because they're not. Their Pittsburgh defense currently actually is ranked 9th.
They're not bad. They're top 10, Eric.
So they are top 10. So they don't pass the eye test of a top 10 team. You can run on them. You can pass on them. But I just think that Pittsburgh's been playing better than New Orleans, even though New Orleans is 2-1 in their last 3 games when they struggled mightily on offense. They only scored 12 points last week against the Panthers.
I know.
They scored 28 against
Tampa Bay.
28 against Tampa. And then the Cowboys, they got
10.
Got 10 points?
Yep.
That's not a recipe for success at this late in the season, but they're finding ways to do it. And they're just lucky that their division stinks right now because they could easily have lost that division lead with a couple more losses. But they have their sights set on that number 1 pick, and I think that number 1 seed. So I think that's what's going to motivate them. And even if they lose this game, they're still in the driver's seat.
Well, and that's why I like this loss because I don't think it's going to necessarily affect the outcome, but it's going to force the Saints to play Week 16, and it's going to force the Rams to play the 49ers. I don't know if McVay is dumb enough to make the same mistake twice. I don't feel like he is, but there's a concern that he might rest some key players for that 49er game. Not the whole team like he did last year. If they have the 2 seed already wrapped up, which they wouldn't really with a win. Even with a win, they would be 12-3. But if the Bears win, they're 11-4, and the Rams would still have to win to ensure they get the 2 seed. But I think it's easier to play when you have a possibility to improve your standing than to defend your standing, especially against a division rival like the 49ers. And this just in, the Rams have not beaten the 49ers in San Francisco 2 times in a row since 88 and 89. Let that sink in.
Well, that's a stat and a half right there.
Yeah. So, and I'm talking as the LA Rams. You can go back to St. Louis days and probably find that happening. But as the LA Rams, they've not done it since 88 and 89. So this is a big deal for me as a fan, personally. Obviously I don't want them to lose to Arizona. Look, I'm going to get to another game that I think is interesting. Forever. This one's for you. I've been mixed up on this game. I have not known which way to go. I've not been impressed with Kansas City the last few weeks, and I've not been impressed with Seattle. But at home, I always go, if you're undecided, go with the home team. So that's what I'm doing. I'm picking Seattle to beat Kansas City, and the Chargers, after their win over Baltimore, will be in the driver's seat with the 1 seed, and all they got to do is win the final week of the regular season. I'm saying it.
At Denver, huh?
At Denver, which will be everything for the Chargers and everything for the Chiefs, because it's a determining factor on whether you're going to be the 5 seed or the 1 seed. Think about that jump. 1-5, either way. Oh, it's going to be an awesome Week 17. I think Kansas.
I feel sorry for Pittsburgh, who's got to play them again then, because they ain't beating them.
No, well, they ain't beating either one of them. But I think it's tough. It's tough to win in Seattle, and especially when they're running the ball as well as they are, and we know the Chiefs struggle to stop the run. I hate the fact that my theory is being utilized by one team, and of course, it's got to be that gum-chewing, cow-face-looking mother fricker in frickin'... Oh, I want to punch him every time I see his face in Pete Carroll. I can't stand him. But yet he's doing exactly what I said you need to do if you want to be a dynasty in this league. No one can stop the run right now. No one has linebackers that are run stoppers. No one has run-stopping D linemen anymore. It's all geared towards the pass.
New Orleans and Chicago do.
Well, look, New Orleans and Chicago do not. They do a better job of it than other teams. But Khalil Mack is a pass rusher.
I'm not talking about Khalil Mack. Look at Akeem Hicks. Look at Roquan Smith and
Trevathan. Roquan Smith is a freak. And I loved him in Alabama for this exact reason. He's Roman Pfeiffer.
He never played in Alabama.
Roquan Smith, where'd he play?
Georgia.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, April. I'm sorry. I knew he was an SEC guy, and one of the SEC teams I actually like is Georgia.
I mean, you had a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, April, I'm sorry. I did not mean any disrespect on your dogs, but Roquan Smith is a freak. He reminds me so much of Roman Pfeiffer. And guys, if you don't know who Roman Pfeiffer is, and you're a young Ram fan, you need to find old Ram games in the early 90s with him when he was in LA before he went to New England. This dude could cover the pass, and he could stop the run. He was a dual threat linebacker before they existed. He was a stud, and that's what Roquan Smith is. So yes, they have guys like that, but you double team your boy in the middle, and everyone else on that defense is geared towards stopping the pass. Now, the Bears are farther along in that defensive process than anybody else. I would throw New Orleans in that equation as well, okay? Hell, you want to be perfectly honest, I think Cleveland is starting to go that way. Their linebackers do an amazing job at playing both run and pass. They're just not as physically gifted as Roquan Smith or some of these other guys. I'm just telling you right now, dude, Seattle's going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball frequently. They're going to keep Mahomes off the field. Their defense is going to put pressure on Mahomes more than I think he's expecting. They're injured. They're gimpy. The lack of having a good running back, and yes, I said it, they don't have a good running back. They have serviceable running backs, is going to hurt them. I think they're going to go pass happy, and I think Seattle is pissed off, and they know if they win, they lock up the wild card, right? They clinch with a win. Am I wrong?
Yep. Nope.
That's why they're going to win this game 27-20. They're going to win it 27-20. And don't be surprised if it's 27-13 in the fourth and Mahomes gets a late touchdown and then they never see the ball again. They might score like 3 minutes to go in the game and then Seattle just runs out the clock and it's over. So I'm calling it. I think Seattle gets this win, and coupled with the win today by San Diego, the Chargers are the 1 seed. Your go.
Yeah, that puts a lot of pressure if the Chargers win Saturday night and the Chiefs aren't playing until Sunday night, which is a great Sunday night matchup. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, Seahawks winning their end. They're 8-6. Vikings are 7-6-1. Eagles are 7-7. Redskins are 7-7. So unless they lose the last 2 games, they're out, and Minnesota and Philly can get in. But yeah, it's one thing that I'm licking my chops at this matchup because you're going to watch an old school football with Seattle running the ball down Kansas City's throats. They're going to run it down. They're going to run it down their throat with Carson. They're going to run it down the throat with Mike Davis. They're going to run it down the throat with Rashad Penny. And then when they're done running the ball down the Chiefs' throat, it's going to be Russell Wilson time. And when he has to pass, I'm sorry, who's guarding those wide receivers? And I know you don't like the Seahawks wide receivers. I know you don't like the Seahawks, period. But Lockett and Baldwin are going to have good teams. I think it's going to be a little bit more high scoring for the Seahawks. Yes, there's going to be ground and pound. I could see one receiver going over 100 yards. Pick your poison between Lockett and Baldwin, and I could see 2 rushers, whether that's Wilson or whether that's 2 running backs, get over 100 yards too. I can see Carson being the one running back that definitely gets over 100 yards. And when they do that, yes, Mahomes is on the sideline. He's biting his nails. He's looking at the clock saying, when's it going to be my turn, boys? Let's go. Let's get a defense stop. You can't do it. 34-17 Seahawks.
Wow, you're doubling up the Chiefs?
Doubling up the Chiefs.
Ooh, man, I don't know if that's you hoping for your fantasy game or what, but because the dude Eric's going against...
Mahomes can run a touchdown in. Mahomes can throw to Chris Conley. As long as it's not Mahomes to Kelsey and Mahomes to Hill, we're fine.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is Eric's going against this guy called Mahomes the Clown. Dude's awesome, by the way. Had a great year. Good football team. He's got basically like I did. I had all Rams. He had all Chiefs. And we played each other. We fixed the schedule a little bit mid-season so we could play each other just on the Monday night game when the Rams played the Chiefs. And you can imagine that was a pinball machine game in fantasy, too. What was it, like 189 to 130 or something ridiculous?
It was something because he also had McCaffrey and Barkley and Mike Evans.
Yeah.
And then you have Larry Lipshoes and...
Well, it's not... Come on, I had Gordon. And look, you score 130 and still lose by 59 or whatever it was.
Yeah, but in the regular season, I did beat Mahomes by 1 point.
There you go. So this is a revenge game for him. It'll be fun to watch this championship game. I just hope you don't lose it like I lost it.
Yeah, I won't be happy. I'm trying to get out in front and get a good beat by Derrick Henry tonight.
Yeah.
And start him. I'm hoping for 102 touchdowns or something.
102 touchdowns, really? You mean 102 yards and a touchdown?
100 yards and 2 touchdowns. 102 touchdowns would be great.
102 touchdowns, NFL record. What the heck happened in New York? Or I mean, in where are they playing? To Washington. They're playing at home against the Redskins. Oh, that would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, I want to say something right now. I'm going to make a bold statement. The all-time leading rusher in Seattle Seahawks history, when all is said and done, is going to be Rashad Penny when his career is over. Rashad Penny. Rashad, whatever it is. Do you remember draft day when you text me and you were like, what the hell? You and this guy on your show are talking about Penny, and all of a sudden he gets drafted in the first round. I loved watching that kid at San Diego State. I'm not saying he's Marshall Faulk-esque, but he is a really good running back. And I think if Seattle decides to put the team on his back in the future, they're going to be in good hands with Penny. And they could pay him pennies on the dollar because no one's going to expect him to be as good as some of these other backs. So you've got him for literally a cheap contract moving forward, pun intended there. Monday night, of course Monday night picks this game. I want to know what the schedule makers think when they make Monday night games, because they seem to look at the schedule and go, what is the worst possible matchup we can go with on Monday night? And then they go there, and they don't even allow Monday night to flex like Sunday night. I don't understand it. Monday night used to be the time you wanted to be. If there was one game you were going to watch through the course of the NFL season, or through the course of the week, it was going to be the Monday night game. And then if there was another game if there was multiple games on the weekends, and it was a great week. But you knew at the end of the day, regardless how your team played, you look at that schedule and go, well, these games are crap, but I'm watching Monday night. Now it's like, okay, my week's over pretty much after Sunday afternoon unless the Sunday night game is good. And you don't even worry about the Monday night game because it's just garbage. Now, we've had some good ones this year. But between the announcers that they have chosen for Monday Night Football and the games, I don't think Booger McFarland is any better than that female announcer, to be honest with you. They're equally annoying and equally bad and equally dumb about the game. And that, I know you say, well, Booger was an NFL player. Yeah, well, you know what? Doctors go to college and they're in school for like 20 years. Doesn't make them smart in education. Doesn't mean they're good teachers. Just because you were in the classroom for that long doesn't make you able to do the job. Just like you can be in the league and still not understand the X's and O's. I'm sure he can do a playbook just fine, and I'm sure he could break down an opponent just fine. But when it comes down to breaking down an entire team, listen to Booger McFarland. It's kind of like listening to rocks chirp. And if you're saying to yourself, Anthony, rocks don't chirp, you're absolutely right. You'd be wasting your time just like listening to Booger McFarland. Literally, that's all I'm talking about is the Monday Night Crew, because this game is garbage. Raiders win Raiders lose 3-2.
That's funny.
I'm literally picking that score 3-2.
Okay, that's great. I don't think it's that bad of a game, though.
Really?
Or a matchup, yeah, because there's a lot of storylines in this game. I'm going to start with the best storyline first. Undrafted free agent Philip Lindsay, 9 yards away from 1,000. First undrafted free agent to be named to the Pro Bowl. All right? To me, that's huge for him. He's come a long way. You know, the Broncos spent a third-round pick on Royce Freeman to be the guy. Then they signed Philip Lindsay after the draft, and he's just come along and been a barn burner.
Yeah.
He's really put the Broncos on his back the last few weeks as far as, trying to roll up to the playoffs. Just, I think injuries and a serious case of Keenum have hampered the Broncos to get there. But we're also looking at the Raiders, too. This could be the last game in Oakland. Okay? Yeah. Because we don't know where they're going to be in 2019. But we do know they're going to be in Vegas in 2020. So if this is the last home game for Oakland, yeah, to me it's a big storyline. Now the product on the field is completely different.
Well, that's what I care about. I don't care about storylines.
I know, but I'm bringing it up because that's what they're going to be talking about the whole time.
And Eric, you're an announcer, I'm not, and that's why, right? I mean, that's why.
Right. They need to fill that time. And just for your knowledge, the trio on Monday Night Football will be back next year.
Oh, Jesus.
I like Tessitore. I could care less about the other two guys.
You like Sir Squeaks a lot?
I like Joe Tessitore,
Oh,
absolutely.
my God, I can't stand him. It's a big game! It's like, are you kidding me? Are you joking me? Who are you?
McDonough and Gruden.
I don't know about that. Gruden was growing on me like a tick at the end.
You could tell they wanted to choke each other.
I agree. The chemistry in there was terrible. But look, I can't stand Joe Tessitore because I can't stand. It's like, dude, my kid's going through puberty. I don't need to see it for 3.5 hours on TV.
That's funny. Anyways, back to the game. You see a lot of card to Nelson Cook, but I think it's too much Philip Lindsay in this game. I think he gets a really good game in against the Raiders. I like the Broncos in this game. Going on the road, giving the Raiders their last game in Oakland as a loss. 24-10.
It's sad. You know, it is sad. They bookend their final year in Oakland with and there's really no reason for it. The only reason the Raiders want to move is because they don't want to share a stadium with the Oakland A's. And
Well, the Coliseum is kind of a dump.
I understand that, but the A's are building a new stadium off of the ocean. You could have piggybacked off that. You know, and I'm sorry, but it makes you unique. You're the only NFL stadium that'll have a baseball diamond on it when it used to be the norm. And don't tell me that can't be an advantage because you can get practice kicking off the dirt while other people cannot. You know, and when you're running and it's summer and you got the dust kicking up and the dirt and you're exhausted and the heat's beating down on you, that's an advantage. But they want brand new shiny things. And I'll tell you something.